Hi YouTube. Welcome to the channel. Click of Reddit. Here are the most interesting comments from Reddit threads. Be sure to rate this video and subscribe to the channel, it is very important for me. What are some ridiculous history facts? Romans used to wash clothes in urine. Because urine contains ammonia, a powerful bleaching agent, ancient Romans used to wash their clothes in pee. At many street corners there were public urinals that men could use, and their contents were collected every day and brought to the laundries. The Spartans never built a city wall, figuring that their reputation alone would mean no one would dare attack them. But, during the Persian War, the Persians, who had already burned Athens twice, hired a Greek guide to take them to Sparta. But when they got there, they saw a kinda crap-looking city without even a wall. They figured there was no way this place could be the mighty Sparta they had heard so much about. So they figured the Greek was lying, and thus Sparta was spared. Edit. I'm remembering this from reading it in the book Persian Fire by Tom Holland. It's quite possible that I'm misremembering details, or that Holland's text identifies this as a legend or story. Still, the book is a fantastic read, and I heartily recommend it. In ancient Egypt, servants were smeared with honey to attract flies away from the pharaoh. Oh God, that sounds awful. The heat, the stickiness, the buzzing all around you. That sounds like literal torture. I can't imagine they were very healthy with bug crawling all around them. The Battle of Bull Run, during the American Civil War, was called the Picnic Battle because so many civilians from Washington went on picnics, on the sidelines, and watched. But once the battle actually started, and the Union started to get its ass kicked, they all ran away, running over injured soldiers and dead bodies, and generally disrupting the battle. This was actually a relatively common thing during the Civil War. I know it happened at Gettysburg too. A Chinese emperor escaped an assassin by running around a pillar. After 2 hours, the assassin got bored and went home, and wasn't charged for his crimes. He actually did get away. Jing, the assassin, failed in the attempt. The emperor ran around the pillar until he had an opportunity to draw his sword out of his extraordinarily large and unpractical robes to then injure the leg of Jing. After this the emperor got enough distance to Jing so that the guards could imprison him. There was a no weapon near the emperor policy, so the guards didn't dare to come closer to rescue him. 1904 Olympic Marathon in St. Louis. The #1 finisher drove most of the race. He started the race, got tired and heat exhausted, and wanted to drop out. He got in a car to DQ himself and head back to the stadium, but along the way realized he was near the finish line and got out to claim the glory. The #2 finisher was carried across the finish line by his trainers. On a bogus pseudoscience theory, the trainers had been giving him a mixture of brandy, egg whites, and rat poison instead of water. When it came out that the #1 finisher had driven most of the course, this guy was given the gold, despite the help from his trainers to finish. For some reason, the #3 finisher was just a regular guy who did nothing unusual. In this case, ordinary was extraordinary. The #4 finisher was a Cuban mailman who had raised the money to attend the Olympics by running around his entire country and asking for donations. When he landed in New Orleans, he lost all the money gambling. He managed to scrounge enough to get to St. Louis and attend the Olympics. However, he had no money for athletic gear, so he ran in dress shoes and pants hacked off at the knee by a fellow racer who happened to have a knife. He probably would have come in first had it not been for the hour-long nap he took on the side of the road after eating rotten apples he found at an orchard near the course. The #9 and #12 finishers were from South Africa and ran barefoot. South Africa didn't actually send a delegation, these were students who just happened to be in town and thought it sounded fun. #9 was chased a mile off course by angry dogs. Half the participants had never raced competitively before. Some died. St. Louis only had one water stop on the entire run. This, coupled with the dusty road and exacerbated by the cars kicking up dust, led to several fatalities. The Russian delegation arrived a week late because they were still using the Julian calendar until 1918, while effectively the rest of the world had switched to the Gregorian calendar. Montenegro technically was in war with Japan for 101 years, and they signed a peace treaty in 2006. Montenegro was allied with Russia in Russo-Japanese War, and they declared war on Japan, but they forgot to peace. During World War II, a bunch of German soldiers got separated in rural Russia. They were trudging through snow with no food or water for days before finally finding a supply drop that missed its mark. They opened it up and found only black pepper and condoms. Edit. For anyone wondering, my source for this is Storm of War by Andrew Roberts. Unfortunately, I can't remember the page number because I read the book a few years ago, but I believe the chapter is called Clash of the Titans. I'm sorry, I don't have a more exact source, but I'm a random commenter, not a history teacher. Admiral Zinovy Rozhestvensky of the Imperial Russian Navy was so notorious for throwing his binoculars into the sea during fits of rage that his staff always ensured his flagship had an extra crate of binoculars on board. Some more fun stuff about him. He would make up insulting nicknames for ships and officers he disliked, such as the Lecturer Slut, the Sink by Themselves Squadron, or the Guards Uniform Hanger, beat the tar out of crew members that disobeyed him, would fire live ammunition across the bows of errant ships, and was known to pull other ships alongside his just to scream at its captain in front of the entire crew. Despite all this, he was considered one of the best officers in the Russian Navy and was well liked by his crew and took full blame for his defeat at the Battle of Tsushima in order to save some officers from the death penalty. So while he may have been hot-headed and had high standards for his crew, he was ultimately a fair and honorable man, just doing the best he could with what he had, and probably better than could be expected of anyone else in his position. During the Cold War, there was an idea to drop XL condoms labeled medium onto the Soviets to make them think we were anatomically superior and be more afraid of fighting us. Easily my favorite part of American history. Canada and Denmark have been playfully fighting for control of a tiny island near Greenland called Hans Island for decades. When the Danish visit, they leave a bottle of Danish schnapps liquor. When the Canadians visit, they take the schnapps and leave a bottle of Canadian Club whiskey and a sign that says, "Welcome to Canada." In 1908, there was a car race around the world that started in New York City. The route would start in New York City to San Francisco to Valdez, Alaska, across the Bering Strait, through Russia and Europe, with the finish line in Paris. Cars were relatively new, and road infrastructure was limited to only metropolitan areas, and even then, a lot of it was cobbled stone. But what you might have thought is, how in the world can a car get across the Pacific? Duh, they would drive across the Bering Strait during the winter, when it froze into an ice bridge. Silly. The race began in February 1908 and immediately ran into challenges. To list a few: cars breaking down multiple times, lack of usable roads, car-hating people giving wrong directions, and oh yeah, snow. The first team reached San Francisco in 41 days. But quickly realized that the proposed route from San Francisco to Alaska did not exist. So the organizers allowed teams to ship their cars to Valdez, Alaska, then continue on the ice bridge. Once in Valdez, the teams found out that there is in fact no ice bridge across the Bering Strait anymore because it melted 20,000 years ago. Small oversight. Organizers then allowed teams to ship their cars across the Pacific to Japan, then Russia to carry on. Despite all unpredictable and hilariously predictable odds, the winning team arrived in Paris 169 days later. Thanks for watching this video to the end. What are some ridiculous history facts do you know? Write about this in the comments. I will also be very grateful if you rate this video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.